Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een amma ba'd fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Dear respected brothers and elders, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please repeat after me. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Habib Allah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah. Sallallahu ta'ala alayka wa sallam. First of all, can everyone see the presentation slide there, yeah? If you can't see it, then move to a position where you can see it, probably more towards the center. Okay, now as Hafiz Sadiq mentioned, we'll be conducting these series of lectures and presentations on Salah, going through the basic principles of Salah, the rules of what to do, what not to do. And inshallah, today will just be an introductory session, so it's just an introduction, going through the simple preliminary aspects of Salah and some definitions of important words that we need to know before we start talking about it in more detail. So you've all been given this activity booklet, which they complement the presentations, they go with the presentations. Make sure you write your name at the back, and if you want you can write your age on it as well, just in case there's someone with a similar name to you. And there's activities in there which you fill as we go along, okay? There'll be gaps for you to make notes in. If you want to highlight something, highlight it. If you want to circle it or make notes, just do that. It's up to you. Now you may have some questions while these sessions are going on. If you do have any questions, there's a notes section at the back of the booklet. Write the question in the notes section, because what we're going to do is right at the end of the series, so week 6, week 7, week 8, one of them, we're going to have a question and answer session. So if you write your question at the back, then it may be covered in future presentations. If it's not, then we can answer it on that day. Okay. Now, today's aim is to understand the basic principles of Salah, how to correctly perform Salah, conditions of Salah, and common terminology. So the first two are not just the aims of today, they're the aims for the whole series, to understand what Salah is about and how to do it. Today we're going to talk mainly about the conditions of Salah and some common terms. Okay? But to begin with, we'll go through the 5 pillars of Islam: Shahada, Salah, Zakah, Saum, and Hajj. Okay, it's all written in your book, but Shahada is, to declare that there is none worthy of worship besides Allah Ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his servant and his messenger. We all know this as the second kalima. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. This is the first step to being a Muslim. Okay? Once you accept the Shahada, then you become a Muslim, and the laws of Islam apply to you. After accepting the Shahada, so once you are a Muslim, the first duty, the first thing that you must do, okay, is perform the 5 daily prayers. This is an obligation, it's a farad action, okay, and we'll come to what farad means in a moment. So the action itself is farad, which means that to learn how to pray it correctly, when to pray it, what to do, what not to do, everything that relates to Salah becomes important to know as well, okay, because we won't be able to do a farad action without knowing about how to do it. And there are 5 daily prayers which is mentioned in the slide. Also in there that Salah is also called namaz in Urdu. So the Salah meaning prayer, the word in Urdu is namaz. Now some of the remaining pillars are mentioned on the presentation. They'll also be in your booklet, but we're not going to go into much detail for that. Now the dictionary definition of Salah, if you look in an Arabic dictionary, pull out the word Salah, it means to make dua, okay, to make supplication, to ask Allah Ta'ala for something. But according to the Sharia, it is a collection of words and actions which form the basis of prayer. Okay, so Salah is, the actions that we do to pray to Allah Ta'ala. It is compulsory on every sane adult Muslim. Okay. Now, Salah is mentioned many times in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala refers to it over and over again. He says it so many times because it is that important. Okay? Now I've just picked two places where Salah is mentioned. So in Surah Ankabut, verse number 45, Allah Ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. And establish the prayer. Indeed, the prayer stops from indecency and evil. So this is a direct command from Allah Ta'ala to perform Salah. Okay? And it also gives us a benefit of Salah. It tells us that the prayer, it keeps us away from evil actions. Okay? If we put Salah on the top of our to-do list every single day, automatically we will stay away from evil. Because you would think that how can I stand in front of Allah Ta'ala in prayer after I've committed such and such a wrong action? Okay, if you have it that high up. Another verse in Surah Baqarah, verse 45, it says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. And seek help in patience and prayer. Okay? Truly it is hard except for those who prostrate before me with sincerity. So Allah Ta'ala is telling us that, to be steadfast in your 5 daily prayers is hard unless you try. You've got to put the effort in yourself. Allah Ta'ala is advising us to pray that if we pray with sincerity, if we pray properly, He will make it easier for us to pray namaz. Easier for us to exercise patience and ultimately make us better Muslims. Nowadays we have zero patience. We want everything to be done quickly. We don't like waiting around. And then we complain that the time has gone really fast. Because there's no barakat in our time. But one way to overcome this is to stay regular with Salah and pray with the most concentration that you can. Okay? So that's just Salah in the Quran. Just a couple of places. Now we'll go through some definitions. Okay? So in your books, page number 3, there are spaces in your handout to fill in. So you can fill this bit in as we go along. So the first definition, farad. This is an action that is compulsory. Okay, you don't have to copy it word for word from the slide, it's up to you. There's just one word. Right. This is an action that is compulsory and has been proven directly from the Quran and some parts of the Hadith as well. Okay, so that's the meaning of farad. The meaning of wajib, this is something that is necessary for us to do, and it's been proven through the Quran or Hadith, but it's not directly evident. So the difference between a farad action and a wajib action is that farad is directly evident. Allah Ta'ala has told us to pray namaz directly. There's a wajib action, is sometimes not directly evident. Now both of these things must be performed. Okay, it is a sin to miss a farad or a wajib action. However, there is a difference between them. If someone was to deny a farad action, so if someone says a farad action is not a farad action, then he will be a kafir, he will no longer be a Muslim. Okay? But if he believes that it's still a farad and misses it on purpose, then he's a sinner. But because he hasn't rejected that it's a farad, he's still a Muslim. Okay? I'll give you an example in a moment. But this is not the case with wajib. If someone denies a wajib action from being wajib, he will not be out of Islam. He will still be a Muslim, but he will just be sinful. So I'll give you an example. We mentioned that namaz is farad. So to pray Fajr, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, those things are farad. But if someone says, no, this namaz is not farad for me, so I'm not going to pray it, that person will be a kafir. Okay? Because he's denied that it's a farad action. But if someone says, yeah, it is a farad, but I'm going to decide not to pray it, which we shouldn't do, that he's still a Muslim because he's accepted that this is a farad action, but he's a sinful Muslim because he's not praying his namaz. So that's the difference between farad and wajib. The next one, sunnah muakkada. This is something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did regularly. Okay, it's very, very close to wajib and it should not be neglected. Should not miss it out. The sunnah muakkada we should perform. We're going to move on. Sunnat Gair Muakkada. This is also an action that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, but it's something he did the majority of the time, and sometimes he would miss it out without any particular reason. Okay, so it's one step below Sunnat Muakkada in severity. Next word, mustahab, voluntary action. This is something that is liked by Allah Ta'ala. So performing a voluntary action will be rewarded, but there is no consequence for someone who misses it. For example, if you decide to fast tomorrow for no particular reason, you just want to fast, so that's a voluntary fast. Okay, so if you do it, you'll get reward for it. But if you don't do it, then there's no sin or anything. It's like nothing happened. Next one, haram. So this is the opposite of farad. Okay, we all know what haram means. It's something that we're forbidden to do, something prohibited. And that is directly evident from the Quran or the Sunnah. Anyone who denies a haram action from being haram is a kafir, similar to anyone who denies a farad action from being farad. And anyone who commits this haram action will be sinful and deserve punishment. Makruh tahrimi. So the word makruh means disliked. Tahrimi means major. So it's a major offense. It's an offense. Okay, Allah Ta'ala does not like this thing. Makruh tahrimi is the opposite of wajib, and it's very close to being haram. It is an offense that if committed will result in sin and punishment. Okay, but anyone who denies that a makruh tahrimi action is makruh tahrimi does not become a kafir, similar to the wajib. I think I've mentioned that there. Yeah. Isa'a. Now this is the opposite of sunnat muakkada. If it is done, it is sinful, and if it is done regularly, it will deserve more punishment. Okay, so these things, makruh tahrimi, isa'a. We're going to move on to the next one, makruh tanzihi. If you keep doing them, okay, your sin for doing it each time will get higher and higher. Okay, so the 10th time you do it, you're going to get more sin than the first time you did it. Okay, so if it becomes regular for you, that's what will happen. Makruh tanzihi. So again, makruh means disliked or an offense, and tanzihi in this case means minor. So this is a minor offense, and it's opposite to sunnat ghair muakkada. So performing this action is against the Sharia, but there is not much harm in doing this action. Okay. Now, when an action is described as just makruh, okay, then we should assume it is makruh tahrimi. So that's the most severe one. Okay, unless we specify it as being makruh tanzihi. And also, we hear the word haram, makruh all the time, but we never hear the word isa'a very much. Okay, it's written there. That's because a lot of things which are isa'a are actually described as being makruh, just so people do not take it lightly. So people are more concerned. You know, they stay away from it. Now, moving on. Mubah. Okay, this is something which isn't commanded or prohibited in Sharia. So there's no ruling on it on Sharia. So wearing nice clothes, eating nice food, those sort of things. You know, Sharia doesn't say you can't wear nice clothes or you can't eat nice foods, or it doesn't tell you you have to wear nice clothes or you have to wear nice food. It tells you to be clean, eat halal food, but you know, mubah means there's no real ruling about it. Couple of other things which are a bit separate. The word mudrik. This is someone who has come to Jamaat and has prayed the full Jamaat, full namaz with Jamaat, and missed no rakat. So he came to the first rakat before ruku time, and he prayed the full namaz with the imam. And masbuq is the word to describe someone who came late to Jamaat and they've missed some rakats. Okay, so anyone who misses at least one rakat, the name given to that is masbuq. So that person will be a masbuq. Okay, let's give you guys a minute or so to finish that off. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next bit now, which is just shortly, we're just going to quickly go through the conditions of Salah. So on the next page you can see there's some tick boxes that you can tick, whichever ones you think are the conditions. We'll go through them first though. So what are the conditions? So these are things that they must be complete, they must be met before you start doing your Salah, before you start praying your namaz, for it to be valid. Okay? If one of the following conditions has not been fulfilled, so if you missed one of these things out, then your Salah, your namaz won't count. It won't be, your namaz has never started if you haven't sorted these things out. So first thing is purification from anything that breaks your wudu or ghusl. So you got to make sure that you've done ghusl and you're in the state of wudu. Okay? So you need to do wudu beforehand. Removing any impurity from the body, the clothes, the place where you're standing, and the place of prostration. So the place of sajda, you have to remove anything that is impure from there. Covering the satr awra, or satr awra, which means covering the awra. The awra is the private parts. Okay, so for men, it means to cover the part between the navel, which is the belly button, and below the knees. Okay, so you got to go your knees and a bit extra. And for women, it's to cover the whole body except the face, hands and the feet. Okay, so that's what we mean by the aura. So you got to cover that for your namaz to be valid. That's a minimum. Next one, if it works. You got to make sure that the time for Salah has begun. It sounds a bit obvious, but you cannot pray namaz unless it's time for that namaz. Okay, you can't pray Zohar at Fajr time. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Okay, you can't do it. It doesn't count. Next one is to face the Qibla. Now this is the direction of the Kaaba in Makkatul Mukarramah. Okay, so for us we just face the direction of Saudi Arabia, Makkah. If someone does not know where the Qibla is, then he should ask someone or try and estimate, make a guess. You can try using a compass. You can get apps on your phone, or if you're a bit clever, you can use the position of the sun, okay, and work it out and pray in that direction that you think is the way of the Qibla. Okay. If after you finished praying namaz, you didn't know which way the Qibla was and you guessed, if afterwards you realize that you prayed in the wrong direction, okay, someone came and said, oh, which way did you pray? And you said, I prayed that way. And you said, you should have prayed that way. You don't have to repeat the prayer, okay, so it's alright for you, it's valid, okay. But if you're midway in namaz and someone comes and says that, oh, you're praying in the wrong way, you should pray that way, then you're still in namaz, okay, you know what he said. You turn in that direction and you continue. Okay, you don't have to start again. You don't break it, you don't start again, you just turn in that direction. And finally, you need to make an intention. You can't start praying namaz without having an intention to pray that namaz. Okay, if you do that, it doesn't count. Okay, you need to make sure that you've intended to pray for Allah. Now, next week, what we'll do is we'll go through some of the conditions in more detail. And I think that's pretty much it for next week. We're just going to go through the conditions in more detail. But that's it for this week. So, Jazakallah for listening. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.